The Stadium Heads Ivy League edition on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. They just introduced college football best ball. So hop on over to Underdog Fantasy. Once again, underdogfantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm's college football and NFL picks and projections are now live. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride.
This is Coach June Jones, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
One thing that can be done in any case is education. More education, the more informed people are. That's the way it is with everything. The young men, they ask me advice, and I always tell them, get as much knowledge as you can.
Stadium Heads, man.
The granddaddy of them all, the famed Rose Bowl, jammed with a color of over 100,000 fans for its 67th renewal.
And the weather here today at Notre Dame Stadium, in a word, it is cold, but it is football weather. The temperature 37 degrees, humidity 79%. Forecast cloudy for light rain later on this afternoon.
The average person doesn't know what a good stadium is. They might think they know what a good stadium is, but they think just, oh, our seats are nice and it's so comfortable. We have a 10,000-inch screen we can watch the replay on while we're watching the game, and we got a waiter coming over to take our orders, right? And there's 20 million bathrooms close to us. That's not what makes a good stadium. A good stadium is the look of it, the feel of it, the history of it, the soul of it. That's what makes a good stadium. That's what I mean when I say we're stadium heads. We are stadium heads.
They get to run around. Now those people, they shouldn't even be there. That doesn't even count. If you can't get out in the elements, you shouldn't even go to the game. That's the worst thing. Those darn boxes up there, and dome stadiums and stuff. We don't need that, right?
Welcome to sunny El Paso, the 52nd Sun Bowl, and now
this ancient facility is one of the great settings in all of college football. Neyland is now in its 87th year.
That's what we are, though. We are stadium heads. Welcome back to the Stadium Heads edition for the Ivy League. Excited to talk about the Ivy League and some people. You might be blind. You might not, realize just how good the Ivy League is. I think some people might tune in and say, Ivy League, what the hell's going on? Well, just be patient. But glad to be back. Another episode. If you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swing It Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
That is one of the best clips in the history of the internet. Charlotte City Council, David Thompson, put it in YouTube. Thank me later. Fantastic stuff. I don't know what I need to do in life to get in front of City Hall and say that to somebody. I've always wanted to be referred to as lemon-headed. Maybe it'll happen on this episode. As we talk about the Ivy, shout out to the chat. I see we're rocking along. Robert Martin and Hoosier Stan. Let's go. I am joined by my co-host. He is the most interesting man in college football, and you're going to find that out in the coming months if you aren't already on board with that statement. But for my introduction, I'm just going to leave it to good old ESPN.
Shout out Michael Barker. You can follow him on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour. This is his 84th college football game of the 2023 season. He said he's going to end at 90 college football games he's attended this year with the college football national title in Houston. And so, again, he's out there with everybody.
He's like
wet
US
weather.
Postal Service, rain, sleet.
The U.S. Postal Service employee, perhaps. Give it up for Michael Barker, aka College Football Campus Tour. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, and this is a big-time stadium nerd episode. The Ivy League has got the historic stadiums up to you-know-what, and I won't be calling you Lemonhead this episode. There's no dome stadium, so we'll have to figure out another way for me to sneak in that. But this is cool. This is the part, the fun part about the off-season. We got to do some great stadiums in the SWAC last week. We did Big Sky, and I think that the next most notable conference in the FCS is definitely the Ivy League.
Yeah, and I unfortunately I'm gonna have to wait to be called lemon-headed, but I did appreciate the University of Idaho and their fans. Their university contacting us. I think there's a SID or assistant AD, perhaps. Yeah, shout out to him. Hell of a nice guy. Look, the Ivy. In case you don't know the history of college football, they played a big time role in the history of the sport. First ever game included one of their teams, but also, you could even look as far as like the 60s and 70s. A lot of big games played at some of their stadiums within the Ivy. What's your overall take of the entire conference there, the Ivy League?
Well, I agree with your statement that the history of college football begins in the Northeast, and it started in the Ivy Leagues. Yale has a ton of national championships. I think Princeton has, I want to say like 27. If I don't remember the number, but there's something, they have a huge amount. Harvard has a huge amount, and it's one of those things where, it progressed, and then it went to Navy, and then it went to Notre Dame, and then it reached out to the South, and then it became a full, a phenomenon all over the country. But times have changed. The Ivy is non-scholarship, so guys are going to be going chasing scholarships, which they should. NIL has changed the game a lot, so the Ivy League doesn't participate in the FCS playoffs, which we wish that they would. But it has become a very regional conference. But you get greedy when you become a traveler, and when you do games all over the FBS and the G5 and the P4, you only get to tap into each conference a little bit. And, maybe someday in the future, I could do a whole Ivy League season. That would be great. But when you go back there, it really feels like original football. The stadiums we're going to talk about, a lot of them are 100 years old. They're the original stadiums that they started playing in. So it's not what it was, but we can still go back and appreciate what it is now and still walk around the venues that a true stadium head would appreciate.
Yeah, 100%. And I like the fact, and look, to our weekday comments, I feel like the Ivy plays a lot of weekday games, or more than most conferences in the FCS. So you get a chance to tune into these things too, folks, probably more than you realize if you don't pay attention to it. But as far as this conference, like, first, youtube.com/@stadiumheadsSGPN. So hit that like and subscribe button, folks. One of the things that was cool, and I apologize, I accidentally pulled it up as we were talking, is you can leave us a comment. A lot of times you comment while the show's going on. Shout out to, like I said, Hoosier Stan and Robert Martin. Excited for this episode. And but at the same time, if you're listening to this later, if you just drop in the YouTube comments, we will try our best to answer everything. And with that being said, we did get some messages, Robert Martin being one of them. I'm going to try to throw this up on the screen really quick. This one, I'm sorry, from Edwin Moore. I do have Robert Martin's comment. He liked our analysis of the SWAC. He said, I really appreciate what you guys do. I really think this is one where, he leaves a big answer here, but he wants us to go to an Alcorn State game, it seems like. But he ended up going to Southern instead of Alcorn State, which, by the way, I wonder if that caused any beef within the family. But look, he's leaving his 2 cents. I pulled up a few different comments here. Michael, do you care to talk about any of this? I mean, I know he's talking about just in general what he went through as far as going to growing up an Alcorn fan and going to Southern. But do you have any reply to this one here?
Yeah, well, it's funny because there's a lot of, the allegiances, we talked about it during the SWAC episode. I don't think there's a more passionate fan base in the FCS when it comes to SWAC. And, I'm a son of an Alcornite, and I grew up a major and an Alcorn fan. And, I ended up going to Southern for computer science, and Jackson State ended up being the rival. That's a rival of Southern. That's a rival of Alcorn. He's talking about the atmosphere at Mumford, which when we did the SWAC episode, I talked about going to the Southern homecoming in 2021 versus Prairie View, and it was an amazing experience. And I also mentioned that there's only 2 stadiums in the SWAC that I haven't been to for a game, one being Mississippi Valley State, and the other one is Alcorn State. So I want to go there. Edwin in his comments is saying that he's been to all of them except Mississippi Valley, Alabama A&M, and Alabama State. So he's been to 9 of them. He's got as great his opinion as just about anybody. And so I also mentioned in the last episode that I had talked about all these places I went, and Florida A&M fans in 2022 said, you haven't been anywhere until you went to Bragg. So we were able to check that off. So the last 2 on my list to fully say that I've done all of the SWAC is still Mississippi Valley and Alcorn State. And I would love to do it. And maybe I'll see Edwin down there.
Hell yeah. Yeah, you're going to get to those. You're going to get to those. I know it's going to happen. I want to pull up while I can here. It doesn't let me pull up multiple at the same time, so I have to go one by one here. Folks, like I said, you feel free to get on over there and leave us a comment if you're listening to this later. That's perfectly fine. Leave us a comment with your thoughts on the show, or if there's something that you like or didn't like. It doesn't matter. Let us know, and we'll go from there. This one here. this is Edwin. Love the oh shit. Did I just end it? Gosh, this is okay. He said he loved the get out of jail story there with your car being locked in at Florida A&M. As I feel like perhaps maybe he could relate to that. Next up, let me see if I could take us to Robert Martin, who I know had reached out, leaving us not only comments, but also he's in the chat currently, I believe. So let me pull up his comment from a previous episode here. Shout out to Robert Martin out of Manitoba, I believe. 5-star review. Mr. Barker stated that he needed $4,000 to do a possible CFL Stadiums podcast in the future. He's willing to kick off this drive to 4,000 with a $1,000 donation. Where does he send the check? And were you able to send me Stadium Heads gear, sweaters, hats, shirts in exchange for the kickoff? Yes, most certainly, by the way. We can accommodate you with all of those. But Michael, what do you make of this?
So first of all, extremely generous. What I do want to say is, we got the college football season is about 19 days away. So unfortunately, I can't do CFL and college football at the same time. And, also I would want to be prepared properly. I would want to have flights booked in advance and mapped out. And so I did, I got my passport renewed. I put out some tweets. I had some people from the CFL follow me and invite me, but it never quite came together. So what I would like to say to Martin or to Robert is that we could work on this for next season. And, I would want to have a schedule mapped out. I would want to talk to people from the CFL. There's just the guy who set the Guinness Book of World Records, Chris. I messaged with him on Twitter for seeing all 9 stadiums in a 15-day period. I looked at that trip and it just didn't come together. But that being said, shout out to Robert. Thank you very much. And let's just keep this in our back pocket. And when this becomes more of a reality come, let's say March or April of next year, I want to do it. I'm watching the CFL right now with a bunch of FOMO, and I think the CFL, I enjoy it I'm not going to say more than the NFL, but is right there just because it just feels it's regional, it's long-standing. They don't mess with the rules all the time, and I just really enjoy the broadcasters. I love that they play on a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday, one game, and so I want to do it. So let's take a rain check on it and circle back in the off season of college football, and let's map it out. I would love to do it.
Yeah, and I love the CFL as well. First off, I just want to preface this with like I know behind the scenes what Michael what he plans out, and this is like I think he's got a better plan than fucking General Patton did. You know what I mean? Like he's got just shit just all mapped out, and so it's months of work that goes into this. And you'll find out once he gets on the road and everything that you'll see that it would take a lot of planning as far as booking flights, rental cars, stuff like that. So on a whim right now, it would be just, I think, too much to ask for, especially with the college football season right there. But next year, Robert, that would be fantastic. And I think maybe we can circle back and accomplish that perhaps. But yeah, Michael's travel schedule insane. Let's talk about the Ivy. But before I do that, I do want to tell you folks out there that the Stadium Heads podcast for the Ivy League is brought to you by SGPN. Yes, the Sports Gambling Podcast just launched their 32-team NFL preview series. And as a bonus, each team preview will include a code word. Submit the 32 code word phrase, and you could be the lucky winner who gets a $500 NFL Circa future bet. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and the SGPN app. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Underdog Fantasy just launched their Underdog Streaks. Hits your first two picks on the Pick'em entry sleep. And then you go streaking. Yes, and if you go 11-0, you can win 1,000 times the amount of money you enter. Plus, Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. They find, I mean, not Underdog, but in general. I hadn't heard of college football best ball. Now we got that thing going thanks to Underdog Fantasy. So they just added another college football contest too for best ball. So check it all out. You can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries. So sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Once again, underdogfantasy.com promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized marketplace, or ticket marketplace, I should say, of the MLB. Yes, Major League Baseball, as we inch closer and closer to the World Series and the MLB playoffs. It's great that they're an authorized ticket marketplace, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. So what are you doing, folks? Take the guesswork out of buying those tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use that promo code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. And if you're planning to go out, they got college football too. If you're planning to go to Harvard Stadium, make sure you pull out the Game Time app. All right. And they'll set you up. Terms apply, of course. Once again, redeeming code CFBX for $20 off. You got to create an account. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we are back talking Ivy League football here. Shout out to Timothy Green and Brady McBreen. Brady, I can answer that on another show. I don't have that in front of me right now, brother. But here we go, the Ivy League. And if you're watching, I mean, first off, if you're listening to this on the audio side, I highly encourage you to watch this episode, because I think it's better as a visual presentation to me than the audio side. But if you're just listening to this, that's okay too. Michael's last times, his travel schedule, essentially the last time he's visited all these Ivy League schools, he went to a Princeton Brown game at Brown in 2023. He also went to Columbia. Yes. For a Yale Columbia game in 2022. He went to Cornell, the Big Red. We're taking on the Harvard Crimson in 2022. And he went to, I like to say, fucking Dartmouth 2021 as the Princeton Tigers were taking them on. You went to Harvard Stadium in 2021 as well, as Brown played Harvard. Also went to Princeton as fucking Dartmouth played at Princeton. And then you went to Penn, Franklin Field, legendary Franklin Field, as Dartmouth came in there, and Yale. You've been there, but you haven't been there for a game. Tell me about, talk to me about your travels and all that. I know we're about to go team by team and game by game, but what stands out to you about all this?
So you mentioned in the intro about the Ivy League playing on weeknight games, and I'm looking at the schedules, and 6 of these games were on a weeknight. The only one that was not was Brown last year. I did a 2-for-1, Brown and Bryant, both in Rhode Island. And so the only team in the Ivy that doesn't have lights is Yale. So Yale is not going to be playing on any weeknight. And Yale, their stadium holds 61,000 seats. And everyone says that the best time to go is for when they play Harvard. And they don't play Harvard this year. They play it next year. And so that probably is going to be the one. But individually, and we'll get into it when we do the episodes, but I can tell you for a fact, Harvard and Penn, they were like spiritual experiences. The scenery in Columbia, in Manhattan, the upper tip of Manhattan is amazing. And then the Dartmouth Princeton game I went to, I think one of them was like 6-0 and the other one was like 7-1 or something. It was the hardest hitting game that I watched in 2021. So I have really fond memories of the games there. I know Harvard has a Friday night game on October 4th. I know Penn has a Friday night game on October 25th. So I'm trying to find spots for those in my schedule. But I have great memories of Ivy League football.
Yeah. I watch a lot of it, man. I host the FCS College Football Experience where we cap all these games, and we always emphasize the weekday games too, even more. Obviously, we've talked about this at a crazy amount, I would say, on this show, but the history of these programs is all fantastic. And if you don't know, I would encourage you to check it out and check out the history of all these teams and universities. And I think this episode will feature that. So let's jump into it. Alphabetically, of course, like we do with all of our other teams. And by the way, go check out our other episodes. By the way, we did the SWAC last week, Big Sky before that, all the Power 5 and the FBS conferences, Group of 5. They're all out there. So if you're wondering, hey, you haven't talked about my Rice Owls. Yeah, we have. Go listen to it. It's out there. But let's jump into this. The Brown Bears, Brown Stadium, Providence, Rhode Island, 99 years old, seats 20,000. You gotta love it. I mean, thing's 100 years old, just about. First shots, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Right there, you've won me over. Looks like a fucking it looks like Game of Thrones. Like you're gonna have to storm the castle. You already won me over from the start. Talk to me about your travels to Brown Stadium.
So I've been to Brown twice, once for a campus visit and once last year. And, we could get into the weeds of what it takes to accomplish the goal of seeing a game at every FCS stadium. There's 129 now that Mercyhurst got added. I'm at 78, which is 51 left. Last year I did 17. 51 divided by 3 is 17 per year for the next 3 years. So the reason I bring that up is because the Northeast hardly plays any night games after October 1st. And Brown, I don't even believe, has lights, so they're always playing day games. So last year I did a Thursday night game at St. Francis because the NEC put them on a Thursday night. Then I flew to Logan, Utah Friday for a Utah State game because the only Utah State game that I had ever seen was during COVID. And then the last 2-for-1 that I could see in the Northeast was 12:30 p.m. at Brown and 4 p.m. at Bryant, and they're 20 minutes apart. So I had to catch a 12:45 a.m. flight Saturday morning back in Salt Lake City, land in Providence, 9:30, drive to the stadium, no sleep, do 2 games. So this shows you how much you want to take advantage of these 2-for-1s whenever they pop up. But at Brown University, as you're talking about, 99 years old, it's located 1 mile off campus in the east side of Providence. The original name, Brown University Field. It started with, it actually has shrunk in size, and that is fairly common with the Ivy League. At their peak, they were much higher. But now the record crowd was 33,000 in 1932 for a Thanksgiving game, and now it's down to 20. But a lot of things have changed there. But I would say if you go back to that photo you just showed, you talk about the Game of Thrones castle. Well, look at the way it looks from the front. When we're talking about how you design new stadiums, they're never going to build anything like this before. So right off the bat, first stadium we're looking at, first school in the Ivy League. This is OG, what we consider the heyday of stadiums, and this is a bucket list. Every single Ivy League school is a bucket list.
Dude, if you've been to Cancun and done the voyage or Tulum to some of the Mayan temples, it looks like I'm looking at like a fucking Mayan temple right now. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN, and let's talk about this scoreboard with the bell. God, it's beautiful. That's beautiful to me. Call me crazy. I look at that and I go, don't overthink it. This is fire on a classic stadium, that looks the way it does. Like I said, like a Mayan temple or something. This is what I want. You don't ever replace that with okay, I understand some stadiums replacing it with some current thing. Not this one. When you have that, when you have the way your stadium looks and the intro and everything, this is perfect. And the bell, it's perfect. I mean, look at this. This fucking place is incredible, man. I don't know what's going on. Thanksgiving, they need a game on Thanksgiving. Let's pack this thing. Let's get 40,000 there because, look, you got a forest behind you. I mean, it's perfect. This is fantastic.
And one thing to keep in mind, so we know the stadiums are old, but we when we did AAC, we did Conference USA, we're talking about Georgia State starting their program in 2010, and UTSA has been around for 20 years old. I mean, they founded the Brown University in 1764. It was Rhode Island College, and then Nicholas Brown Jr. made a $5,000 donation in 1804, and they named the university. I mean, we're 1804. Okay, we're talking about 220 years ago, and so when you look at the most played rivalries in college football history, it's Yale and Princeton, and it's a bunch of Ivy League matchups too. So this is, for us, we see these stories over and over about a team outgrew their stadium where they need to renovate and do this. So the huge downside is the Ivy League is they don't play in the playoffs. I mean, I have to just, this the elephant in the room for me because they play March Madness. They play in the lacrosse playoffs. They play in the hockey playoffs, but they won't do the football one. It is like my college football pet peeve because I think one team can do it. And the reason it's so much of a pet peeve for me is because these stadiums need to host playoff games. Harvard Stadium needs to host a playoff game, the Yale Bowl, and Brown. There's been times the first photo that you showed, there was Ivy League banners for them winning the conference. So we want to see that. So it's not that we don't respect people who are playing in, that they have finals, and Ivy League is very difficult, and you're non-scholarship, and you're not getting in and out. We understand everything. But from a stadium head perspective, when we see what we're looking at right now, the mind wanders. And the first thing we think of is, hey, the FCS playoffs, they have auto bids for every conference. And the only two that aren't, we addressed it last week with the HBCUs, but they play in the Celebration Bowl and they have a conference championship. And if the third team qualifies for the playoffs, they play in the playoffs. So it's a whole different ballgame. But with the Ivy League, the reason that it's such a pet peeve is because we want to see these stadiums in the Northeast in late November, early December, cold weather, teams that have been around for 125 years playing each other here, and bring in somebody from North Dakota or whoever, and let's see what happens. So anyways, Brown is not the only one, obviously, but that's the thing that comes to mind with these stadiums is, man, it could be better.
Yeah, if they're hosting games and you can showcase these, what I think is one of the best conferences in all of college football, whether you're talking FBS or FCS, when it comes to stadiums, I would put this up there with any.
I agree.
Look at these shots. I mean, look, you got some houses back there. You got there's frat houses back there.
I think it's just a residential neighborhood because, like I said, it's about a mile from campus, and I park there. Very easy to park. I just kind of, I did that whole Loretto, Pennsylvania, Logan, Utah, Providence, all in about a 14-hour span. And I got to the stadium about 10. I think I laid in my car for like an hour and a half, and then I was able to go over there. But this is when you talk about high volume college football travel, this environment perks you up right away. Like, students being there, alumni, and, Ivy League, these people, they could have their sons going there, their grandchildren going there. But when you get a chance to explore a new historic stadium, like I had a credential and I spent most of the time just walking up and down those bleachers. On the roadside, they had some little concessions outside the bleachers. In that end zone, you can see there's some tents set up. So there's some on-field suites, which we like. So, yes, it's smaller in capacity. Yes, they're not playing in the playoffs. But, man, every Ivy League stadium, if, whether you live in the Northeast or not, I know that people want to go to the big ones. But this just makes you appreciate college football at its core when you go somewhere like Brown Stadium.
Hey, man, look at that. Look at that right there. It's just perfect. No re-entry, though. No re-entry. You're not coming back in to catch these brown bears.
I mean, why would you leave early anyway? So you shouldn't be allowed anyways. Yeah. But, hey, go back to that last photo real quick. I just wanted to that one right there. So it's not an obstructed view. Look at that little quirky half a butt cheek seat right there at the top. And, those are the kind of you don't see a one seat bleacher very many places. So I thought that was kind of funny.
That is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. I love this shot here. Come on, look at that.
Hey, let's buy that house, and then we need to get season tickets, and we can just drink on the balcony and watch Brown football.
Oh man, don't look. Let's do that. How much could that be? Right? Watch it be a shit ton. Yeah. Oh man, and then what's this? Bruno Brew?
Yeah. So the reason that we talked about this on previous episodes about how schools are branding alcohol, and there are still some FBS schools that don't have it. If Brown University in the Ivy League, which we think of as, whatever stereotype you want to think of to describe the Ivy League, they have beer at their stadium and it's affordable. I think it was $9 and, that's a little high, but hey, you get a custom can and, when in Rome, you want to do it. So Brown University has the Bruno beer. It's delicious. It's affordable. And it's branded by their university. Anybody listening that's a D1 school that doesn't have your own beer, you're behind Brown. So you should change it.
Let's go. Yeah. Why would you not? All right, look, before we talk about the Columbia Lions, folks, I want to tell you that the Stadium Heads Ivy League edition is brought to you by Rhythm. Football season is here, and college football and NFL models are now live on Rhythm. Create your own winning betting model, or let Rhythm do the heavy lifting for you. You decide what stats matter most to you, and Rhythm builds a custom model around that. Or just let Rhythm's predictive model do the heavy lifting and just have them do everything. It's your choice. Rhythm uses AI projections from MIT data scientists and quants, ones that are probably attending Brown. Rhythm already has you covered for NFL Week 1 and College Football Week 0. I like the Yellow Jackets catching 13 points in Dublin, Ireland. I think it's a little too much for a Florida State team that lost a lot. So check that out. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Love the Circa in Las Vegas. If you haven't been, oh man, Stadium Swim, the best sports book in the whole world that I've seen, at least. Derek Stevens is truly made. If you're a sports fan, it's like, that's the perfect spot. All right. You got to go there. It's heaven. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. And Derek Stevens clearly doesn't care. He's a good guy. He's a DJ like us. No VIG. They're not charging you a rake. All right. Are you kidding me? Also, imagine the regret you're going to feel if you enter your office pool and you win $500 and like some tickets to see Billy Joel or something, right? You win that, but you went all 18 weeks, perfect in your Survivor. Well, guess what? Those picks would have been fine anywhere. So you would have been a millionaire had you entered Circa Survivor. Look, if you don't have a trip booked to Las Vegas yet before football season, I recommend Ultimate Contest Weekend. It's a great time to go out. You can hang with my pals Stacking the Money Green and Real Money Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast and enjoy some of the open bar events. It's the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd to August 24th. Also, use the promo code SGP15 to save you 15% off your hotel room at Circa that weekend. But you do want to sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th. Obviously, the season kicks with that silly ass kickoff on September 7th. But You can use a proxy to play from anywhere. It's not like you got to fly back to Vegas every week. We even have a deal with footballcontest.com. Just go to proxy.footballcontest.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. So hop on over there, do that. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. Back on the Stadium Heads Ivy League edition. Columbia, the Lions. Lawrence Wien, is that Wine? I think it's Wine, maybe. Stadium, Manhattan, New York, 101 years old, seats 32,000. This one. Fantastic stuff here. I mean, you thought New York City didn't have football, didn't you, filthy animals, right? Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. You got, call me crazy. Where the hell is this in Manhattan? As someone that's spent a lot of time in New York City, I'm like, when I see this skyline right here, and I'm like, where is this in Manhattan? Like, I'm trying to think of where. Clearly, Manhattan's so big that I haven't checked out this part of Manhattan. But absolutely gorgeous. Tell me about your travels here.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I put out a tweet and I said underrated FCS scenery and backdrops, and this one was one of them. I'm going to call it Wien Stadium. I don't know exactly the pronunciation either. I've been there, so you'd think you would know, but it is located on the banks of the Hudson and Harlem River, and it has views. It's located in the northern tip of Manhattan, and it has views of Inwood Hill Park. And when you're there, that setting is, first of all, you're in a major city. When you're looking out and you're seeing these, high-rise condo apartment buildings, you can see the Hudson Bridge. The Hudson River is right on the side there. So it's a very special location. The background, I guess I'll talk more about the location. So, I flew into LaGuardia, and most people don't even think you should rent a car. And, I have things that I want to do on game day. So I felt like I needed to. Well, I get to the stadium, and I circled the stadium, no joke, for like 3 hours and couldn't find a parking spot. And when I got a parking spot, I camped there for the rest of the day. Like, everything just circled around my car. So, I walked to the grocery store, and then I got some food, and then I sat in my car and ate some stuff. And then I went to the gym, and I walked there and changed there. And I came back in the car, and then I walked to the stadium. And after the game, there were people parked next to the parked cars waiting for people to leave. So this is a very difficult place to access. So maybe the reason you haven't seen it there is because it's damn near impossible to get there by car. Once you're there, though, you are looking at a beautiful location, a beautiful stadium with a very interesting background story. So, this it was called Baker Field up until 1982. And they knocked the whole stadium down. And Baker Field had 32,000 seats. They rebuilt it in 1984 with 10,500 seats. They brought it up to 17,000. When 1983, when the stadium was being built, they played all their games on the road, so they didn't have any home games there. That 1983 season coincided with, at the time, the longest losing streak in Division I college football history, which was 44 games. So they started that streak in 1983. They opened the stadium in 1984. They did not win a home game at the stadium until 1988. So a bad start to it, but things got better. You mentioned, the name of the stadium. The field is named after Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, alum of Columbia. He donated $5 million for the name to be named after him. And so that was a huge thing to get that field turf to look a lot better. But an interesting background for the stadium. And then once you have a parked car or you're established at a hotel, an incredibly cool place to walk around. You feel like you're an SVU, like Law and Order, walking around these stadiums. And all of a sudden, you got a beautiful college football stadium with a great view.
Yeah, the backdrop's incredible, man. And so this right here is just random apartments, like the buildings right back there.
It's housing there, and so that's and that usually when we talk about FCS locations, a lot of them are not in big time metropolitan cities, but in this episode, we got Harvard, which is a little bit outside of Boston. Obviously, we got Penn in Philadelphia, and we got Columbia in Manhattan. So the contrast is huge. But yeah, this is, if you lived in those high rises, you could watch out the window. You can walk right over. When you're at the field, you could walk around the whole perimeter of the stadium. They have a track there, so you can walk around each side and go back and forth between the home and the roadside. So, if you want to be on the roadside and look at the press box, that's cool. If you want to go on the home side and look at the bridge and the high rises, you can do that too. So you have a lot of options when you're at the stadium.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, look at this, those trees, the skyline. It is unique. I mean, look, I've been pissed that St. John's got rid of their football program. I mean, New York City had a huge history in college football. It's hilarious to me. Like, I mean, in a bad way that they've ignored it so much, but at least Columbia is still holding it down. I know also the Long Island Sharks are holding it down. But yeah, I think there should be, and to see this with the skyline there, it makes me wonder what if for some of the other schools, but fantastic stuff.
And I will say this would just to reinforce the weeknight thing. On a college football Saturday, what are the chances you're going to tune into a Columbia football game? Probably zero. So when they play these weeknight games, it's not only a chance for us, to watch it on TV, but somebody who gets to, have a small platform on social media, you get to show this to other people. And so, I'm trying to prep people for, what if you were to make the trip out there, or you happen to be in New York when Columbia has a home game that Saturday. It's going to take a little bit of logistics to make it happen. But this is the kind of thing where you may not necessarily have this stadium on your list as top places you're going to visit during the college football season. But look at this environment. Think about what it'd be like walking around Manhattan with these views. Everything is in close quarters, and so you could probably get accommodations right nearby and enjoy a Columbia game day or night. And it's different here because they have lights too. So, anyways, just reinforce the appreciation we have for these weeknight games.
Hell yeah. Next we jump to Cornell. How do you pronounce this? Skokov? Is that what it is? Skokov?
I'm going to go Sholkov. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
I just go to stadiums. I don't pronounce them. So
yeah. Ithaca, New York, 108 years old, seats 21,500. 108 years old.
Love it.
Oh man, it's perfect. It's perfect, especially when you see this. What the hell is this, man? You see this, you're like, I got to check this out. What's going on in there? What is this? Is this the where you get your tickets and everything?
So this is Memorial Hall, which is located in the north end zone, and it is a 3-story building where the lower level is the football facility. I think there's a weight room down there. There's the locker rooms down there. And then the second level is a part like coach's office, part museum. And then the third level is a Hall of Fame. And you can see right above that, the brick, there's a balcony there. You can watch the game that, you needed special passes or a credential to be able to do that. But, we see a lot of FCS stadiums that don't have anything in the end zone, and they're trying to put on-field suites. But this is one where they maximize the space. They turn a historical building into a combination football facility, coach's office, Hall of Fame, museum, and prime balcony seating for people. So it's one of the cooler places to go. You could visit it not on game day and really have an enjoyable experience, but very cool thing to have in the north end zone.
Yeah. And this is interesting here. You got like a forest back there by the scoreboard. You have one building on the other side of this shot here, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Looks like the press box, like a very unique looking press box. And then, just this thing is quite abstract in a way.
Yeah, so there used to be bleachers on that roadside. So they put that press box in, I want to say like in the late 90s, something like that. But there were seats underneath it. Those seats got into a point of disrepair. So they ended up removing them. I think that the peak of the stadium was somewhere around 27,000. Those seats accounted for 6,000 seats. So that's still the press box. It still operates well. part of the reason that they have the press box on that side is because they didn't want to fuck with the other side. You know, the other side is called the Crescent, and it is in the same way we talked about Brown from the outside looking like Game of Thrones. This is just this arch of stairs with these columns up there. And I know you have other photos with the interior, but this is the kind of thing where, again, we're talking about a stadium built in 1915, different kind of standards. You know, it gives the kind of like harkens to Soldier Field type vibes with the columns. And so that home side is the signature piece of the stadium. And they, I think with good reason, thought, let's not put a modern press box on top of that. Let's put our football facilities and you know, our press area on the other side. But let's really savor and keep the architectural, you know, look of the home side and not mess with it. And it's incredible.
Look at this. Look at this. I mean, this shot too, dude. I mean, look at what we're looking at here. This is but this shot right here on the left-hand side, this looks like some shit out of like Indiana Jones. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're going down a staircase, like it, you
like
don't know where you're going.
Temple of something. Yeah. So that top area, you know, you need some special seating. You know, I had a credential, so I was able to get there. That seat right there at the 50-yard line is the president's box. And so I saw the president of Cornell there. I actually went to 2 games at Cornell, 2021 and 2022, back to back. But this is, you know, that looks like an outdoor movie theater. It looks like the balcony at one of the most beautiful opera houses or something that you saw. And instead of having to watch some, you know, dumb Phantom of the Opera, you're getting to watch Ivy League football, right? So how can you beat that? And they have, you know, they got coffee for sale. They have things there, but you know, like the romanticized view that we have of the Ivy League, like there's literally ivy growing at the top of the columns. And, you know, it's a work of art. It really is. And, you know, again, like when you're thinking about where you want to be and watch college football, Cornell at a certain point was the epicenter of college football. They won 3 straight national championships, 1921, 1922, 1923. They also won in 1915 and 1939. So, you know, 5 championships in a 24-year history. And that's with all the other, you know, the Princetons and the Yales and the Harvard racking them up. So if you won the Ivy League, you won the national championship. But this is a photo from the 1921 team that you can see in Memorial Hall in the museum. And so, you know, I had shout out to Jeremy Hardigan. He's the SID at Cornell. He let me walk with the team through campus all the way. I did the whole thing. And it was really, really cool. And again, to have access to these places and check it out, even if you don't have a credential, you can get right up to those columns. You can immerse yourself in the same setting as people who've watched football for, you know, since 1915, 109 years.
Yeah. And tell me about this Tom Bernardo thing that we got going here. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN.
Yeah. So I don't remember the full backstory of it, but it was a knife award. You know, and so when we're thinking about awards that are being handed out today, I mean, usually they're not weapons, you know, so this is the kind of thing when, you know, if you go there, they have an old helmet from, you know, like the 20s and you could see, you know, no face mask and the differences. They got game balls from beating their rivals in the 1920s. But these are the kind of things when you go through these museums, you're not looking at, you know, I went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And, you know, I went to the College Football Hall of Fame, but a lot of it is, you know, what's the most recent item you can add? You know, whoever won that Super Bowl, you got his jersey and your cleats. You're like, cool. I look at that all the time. You're not looking at knife awards and things like that. So, you know, make sure you, I'm going to use a pun here, make sure you carve out some time to go check this out when you get there.
I'll tell you this. I'm all in favor of giving a flamethrower to whoever wins the Heisman.
I agree.
All right, just give him a flamethrower. Let's go. Was really impressed by Cornell's stuff. Now we jump over to Dartmouth Memorial Field, Hanover, New Hampshire. 101 years old. All these stadiums are over 100 years old. That's what's fantastic. Seats 11,000. It's fucking Dartmouth. This shot. I mean. This one is this one yours or is this one that I found? Right, this one I found.
Yeah, because you need a drone. You need a drone to get up there, and they didn't let me do that, unfortunately.
I dig it though, man. Yeah, I love you got a little mountain action in the background, little town action in the background. And it has a track, but I mean, like I said, we're anti-track if like the stadium's like 50 years or 30 years old, 20 years old. When it's 110 years old or something, no. Do what you do. All right, keep what you got.
Leeway for them. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Tell me about your travels here.
So I went to one game there in 2021. I mentioned it in the intro. I think it was like 7-0 Princeton versus 6-1 Dartmouth, and it was the hardest hitting game that I saw all year. Great. I mean, I watched that game and I'm like, these teams belong in the playoffs. And I believe Princeton won, and they won the Ivy League this year. But this is another one. So, I know that we talk about states that don't have D1 football. Well, right next to New Hampshire is Vermont, and they used to play football, the Catamounts. They don't do it anymore. And you think of reasons to drop football. They built this stadium in 1923. They've been playing on this site since 1893. The original stadium was called Alumni Oval, and the wood bleachers burned in 1911. They rebuilt the stadium and they opened it. It used to have 22,000 seats. Now it's down to 11,000, which is more in line with, typical Ivy crowds and capacity. But I had a great time here. They added lights in 2011. So this is a new thing. They've been mostly playing day games for the history of Dartmouth football. And they even upgraded the field. I know we prefer grass, but some of these cold Northeast schools, they do that field turf just for easier maintenance. But this is a stadium built in 1923. The original bleachers burned down, and they have brought it back into a great looking, appropriately sized stadium that fits in with the rest of the Ivy League.
Yeah, and shame on Vermont not having a team. Are you kidding me? What is going on there?
Well, it's funny because people will say, last year I did a map and I said, I'm going to try to watch college football in as many states as possible. And I think I got to like 42 out of 50. You're never going to do Alaska. You're never going to do Vermont. And, Wyoming has one. They got Wyoming. And so there's a few states that, you just look at. But Vermont, there's no excuse. We need
it's
something.
It's pathetic.
So, yes.
And they have a good, I follow, I'm the host of the College Basketball Experience. Check that out. But they have a great basketball program. They have a fan base that really enjoys it. Why wouldn't they be football fans? I don't believe that they wouldn't be. They would be. Just build it. If you build it, it will come. Just because the football team.
Real quick, I was going to say, we're not telling them to be FBS Power 4. We're saying field an FCS team, a Division I team, and compete with your neighbors in New Hampshire, like Dartmouth and University of New Hampshire and Maine right next to you. So we're not saying, hey, go out there and spend $20 billion and do this. Compete with your peers, and your state would really love it. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's just a no-brainer to me. It's like, what? Why wouldn't you? It doesn't make any sense to me. I really enjoy this stadium, though. This is a cooler stadium to me. It's cooler than I thought coming into this. Based on your photos and stuff. Great shot here, man.
Yeah, the sky was, both times, because last year 2 years ago, I went to New Hampshire and the sky was just like this. But these are the kind of at part stadium traveler, part photographer, you want to get these type of photos, and that background just, it makes it easy to take this photo. If you go back to the last photo, you can see the basketball arena is right there in the top right corner. So, they're maximizing space there, and they're bringing it so you don't have an excuse to not walk from campus to the football game. So, they love in the Northeast, they love lacrosse. There's hockey in a lot of these places. I know Cornell, their hockey team is really, really good. And so this is just, you get to appreciate all the sports, and being able to play outdoors in November in the Ivy League in a 100-year-old stadium. You can't beat it.
Yeah, 100%. Look at this shot. Look at that. That's a beautiful shot. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And what's this here?
Man, so I had a video of this, and that's Dartmouth, and they're in their indoor practice facility, and they're getting ready to take the field, and they started beating on the door, like boom, 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 and they were like, unleash us, we're ready. Because I told you that I think they were 6-1 and Princeton was 7-0. This was the biggest game of the year in the Ivy League. It just happened to be on national TV. So those guys were banging on the windows, and like I was jacked. I was like, let's go. You know, it really got me going. So cool little entrance. You can see the photographer there standing in the entryway, getting ready to shoot them as they come out there. So it made like a cool anticipation vibe watching them beat on the door, like unleash us. We're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, this game you were at was just incredible. Folks, I see 644 people watching here. Hit that like and subscribe button. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Love this. Look at this intro. They're running out on the field. All right. Well, next up we got
deep breath.
Yes, Harvard Stadium, Boston, Massachusetts, 121 years old. Seats 25,000. It's been the home to the New England Patriots before. I think even the USFL might have played there for a little bit. Maybe I'm confusing that with alumni. But this, are you kidding me? Look at that right there and tell me, this is why I hate the suits in charge of college football. Okay, look, if Ivy doesn't want to be part of, if the Ivy doesn't want to be a part of the FCS playoffs, well then whether it's FCS or whether it's FBS, play monumental games here. Like, this is a gem. Why can't we have the college football semifinals here? Why in the FBS or the FCS national championship? Give us some. Look at this stadium, folks. There's a few different shots here. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. This is a ridiculously awesome and beautiful stadium. It just feels like you're in like the Roman times, man. Tell me about your travels here.
Man, I love the stadium. And, you know, last week we did Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium. I said it's in my top 5. The previous week we did Big Sky. I said Montana was in my top 5. This one is right there. I mean, I say Washington Grizzly, I say the Vet, and I say Harvard. I mean, those are the 3. And, you know, this place is special for a lot of reasons. I mean, first and foremost, it changed college football. And so, you know, it was built in 1903. It was an engineering marvel. It was the first reinforced concrete stadium. It's still the oldest reinforced concrete stadium in college football. It's modeled after, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Pantheaic Stadium in Greece, which was built, I think, in 660 BC, and then it was redone in marble in 144 AD. And it's just a longer version of this same horseshoe model with the columns. It still exists today, and it's one of the top tourist attractions in Greece. But they took that stadium and did it at a smaller scale. You know, today it sits 25,000. At its peak, it had 57,000. But the reason it's a National Historic Landmark, it was added to the list in 1987. It's kind of like Fenway Park, so they're never going to take it down. You mentioned the Patriots. The Boston Patriots played there in 1970, but the legacy that this stadium has, it twofold for college football. So in the year, this stadium was built in 1903. In 1905, there were 18 deaths in college football, and they were worried about the direction of the game. And so what they wanted to do was widen the field to make it so there was more space. And in theory, there's more space. There's not going to be as much injury. Well, Harvard built this stadium in 1903. They built it in reinforced concrete. They can't widen their stadium. So they pushed really hard for there to be another way to make the game more safe. And the result of that was the forward pass. So instead of going horizontally and spreading it out, hey, we're not going to just make everybody know we're going to run the ball up the middle and all 22 guys just bash into each other and we're going to have deaths and injuries. It's going to be a morbid, violent sport. So it pushed that forward. And the other thing that it did was it created permanent field dimensions. And so, you know, within these brick walls that have been there for 122 years, this is what they came up with. So, you know, that photo right there, like, you know, I'm proud to have taken that photo. You know, I took that photo myself and it just looks incredible, and the backstory of the stadium and everything. So Harvard Stadium is, I mean, if somebody says it's the best in the FCS, if they say it's the best in college football, you're not going to get any argument from me.
They need to play a college football semifinal game here or a FCS national champion. Look at this stadium, dude. This is so underrated. Like the fact that you don't hear about it that much. Oh my God, it's just perfect.
And let's talk about the stairs. I mean, these are still concrete bleachers. So, we did the Conference USA episode and we were talking about Jacksonville State redoing their stadium, and the fans are, for 1 year, they got to sit on the concrete stairs on the roadside, and, shout outs to them, and they love football. They've been doing this since 1903 here. Like, they don't care at all. And, you get to stick with that. And this is one where you have to go visit to see it yourself. In the same way when we just did Cornell Stadium, you can go inside those columns. One thing that I don't necessarily like is they added, you can see right there on the very left, they put steel bleachers inside those columns. And it's because one game every 2 years, when they play the game against Yale, they get more than 25,000. They want to see them. Well, talk about obstructive views. Like, how many do you see? Like, every damn column is like that. So that part, those are temporary bleachers. They can be removed, all that. So, but we understand that. But to get to your point, this is the kind of thing where it's really good that they're on ESPN. Harvard Stadium didn't have lights for a long time. Now they have it. They have a game October 4th, which I would like to go to. That's TCU is also playing that day. So we're trying to figure out. But yeah, this is one where it should not be a secret. I think we all know that it's a beautiful place, but I don't think that the regular fan has that mental picture of Harvard Stadium like maybe they have Michigan or they have Alabama. This photo right here, you should have. And one thing I'll also add is you could go work out there. Sundays, mornings, they got group exercise classes. They're doing stairs and all of that. And so this day, there's one day I'm visiting and I'm just sitting there appreciating the scenery of Harvard Stadium, and you got people running up and doing all that. So it's that combination of college football history, tapping into a stadium that was literally built in BC times and revolutionizing the game on the field. And then, a stadium like the Horseshoe, Ohio State, it's literally the 2-story version of Harvard. It's the impact here. So not trying to overstate its importance, but it's, this, and we're going to get to the Yale Bowl, could be the 2 most important college football stadiums to have ever existed.
That's what I'm saying. Like, okay, we have our select, this is as good as any in America to catch a football game, in my opinion. Like, you can keep all this other bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, we watch games in the NRG Stadium or something. Why would you not play a game here, lean into your history, educate people, and look at this stadium, the look of it, the feel of it, the marketability of it? Stop chasing the almighty corporate dollar. Good God. You see this? You see the Sun Bowl or something, the stuff we've showcased on this show, and it's a head scratcher. I'm just glad we still get to catch football games here. But if you put us in charge, our biggest games would be featuring the best stadiums that we have, just like, you should feature the best product in whatever business you do. It's incredible. The stadium is incredible. I could stare at these photos all day.
A way to kind of put it is, some people, like, you have a musician that you love and you want to go see him in concert, and you have a chance to pick one tour stop. You're thinking what's the most historic concert venue I could go to? What's the, it's Red Rocks in Colorado or some concert hall or whatever. College football is the same way. And so, I was going to ask you, hey, okay, well, what's the reason we're not having these big games there? Well, you just said it. It's the corporate dollar. It's playing outside. We're fortunate that they're going to at least experiment in the FBS with the 12-team playoff and have the first round on campus. Chances are one of those 4 first-round games is going to be somewhere cold. And we'll see what happens. We'll see how, in the playoffs last year, remember that Kansas City game that was really cold and 0.03% of the crowd got frostbite, and that's enough for them to threaten the dome, So I don't necessarily have a lot of faith, but the pictures would speak for himself. And having a cold weather night game, consequential, whether it's a college football play, and another reason to reinforce the fact that I want to see Harvard play in the FCS playoffs in the first round and have Montana State come up here and let's duke it out here. So
yes,
huge missed opportunity. And again, the reason they don't play in the FCS playoffs or whatever it is for finals, but they figure out a way to make the finals work during March Madness. They figure out the way to make the finals work during the lacrosse playoffs and all that
Frozen
stuff.
Four, whatever. Yeah,
exactly. So, and then this photo real quick, that's what it looks like. I did multiple trips there. That's what the columns look like pre those metal bleachers, and it is 10 million times better this way.
I agree. Wow. I mean, look at this, man. This place is fantastic. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. What's that?
So I sent you this photo on the right. I always like one of the last photos I want to have like a story behind. So that photo on the right is called the Statue of Three Lies. Okay. There's 3 lies about the statue. First of all, it says John Harvard on it. And there is no known picture of John Harvard. So whoever made the statue just made it about a guy who they think looked like John Harvard. It also says founder on it, and he's not the founder of the university. He gave a big donation after the university had been founded, so it furthered the advancement of the university. And I can't remember what the year is on it, but it's something like 1640 or something, and the year is incorrect. So it's called the Statue of Three Lies, and you can't really tell in the photo, but we know in a lot of places you rub a statue, you do that. His left foot there it's rub his left foot for good luck, and it's a bronze statue, and that left foot is a lot more exposed than the rest of the statue. So kind of funny that the school that we think is the smartest one in the history, they have a statue on campus called the Statue of Lies.
That is, look at this stock footage here that I found. Look at this. This is just great, man.
And that's why when you go to the weeknight games and you don't get the big crowd, and then somebody tells you, hey, the Harvard Yale comes, they sell the whole thing out, you want to see this. So even a stadium traveler who's been to a game at every FBS stadium and 90 games a year, I haven't done this. Like, I want to do it, so there's endless, your bucket list in college football is endless, literally.
Yeah. Look at that. And dedicated to the,
read it up.
I think it says dedicated to the joy of, is that manly contest by the class of 1879?
Yeah, we need Tim Allen, like Tool Time. Manly contest, right? Yeah, you're not going to see that.
I just love it.
Right? The joy of manly contest. That's where you go beat the shit out of each other, and then after the game, you have beers and you talk about it.
Unbelievable, dude. This place is a fucking gem. Look at that. Just look at that stadium, man.
You know what this does? And tell me if I'm wrong. This just makes you think about what happened on this field. And you talk about this all the time, like the people who have played there, significant games that have played there, the national championships that have been decided there, all that stuff. And it is unchanged. Yes, there's turf there. Yes, they've done some small metal bleacher modifications up there. Yes, they added a press box. It used to be larger. They had a part of it was the completed circle. It wasn't a horseshoe. There have been changes, but when you look in that photo, virtually nothing is different than 1903.
I know for a fact Vince Lombardi played here when he was at Fordham. I believe they played a game here. Yeah, I was reading his book or a book, not his book, a book about him. So, I mean, like I said, I would love to lean into that. Like I said, to me, that's part of the aura of this fantastic sport that's been created, is that just think about the people that even in the pros, you've had a lot of great pros come through here. This was the Patriots' home stadium for a while too. So even if you can't think of, well, I don't know who the hell in 1920, well, you don't have to go that far back in NFL history where huge games were played here. This place is fantastic. Look at these seats, the numbers. Don't ever fuck with this, please.
Never fuck with it. And, last time I was there, I visited and I said, I slept in the Harvard parking lot. Like, I slept in the parking lot there, and I sent a tweet out. I was like, I want to sleep in the stadium. Like, that's my thing. I want to spend the night in the stadium, and I will sleep right on that concrete bleacher. I don't care.
Let's
And
go.
let's go. And so like, they got the numbers carved into the concrete. They're not upgrading this. And you could see there's little rails because I'm sure like some health and safety thing came up, but sitting on concrete is not a health and safety issue. It may be an uppity issue, but it's not a health and safety issue. So
how's the bathroom situation? David Matola is asking.
I do believe there's troughs. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do believe that there's troughs. So if you're looking for upgraded bathroom facilities, the Ivy League is not your spot. Let's just say that. But I believe that it's troughs. I can't remember. I went to the bathroom there about 4 years ago, so I gotta I got a photo somewhere deep in the camera roll.
Oh man, we just go from one to another. Oh man, this is the oldest stadium in America when it comes to football. This is Franklin Field for Penn, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This was once the home of the Philadelphia Eagles, but obviously long before that, Penn has been playing there forever. And I'll put it toe to toe with any stadium. Like I said, you put me in charge of college football, FBS, FCS, doesn't matter. Championship games are being played here. YouTube.com/the college experience. Look at this fucking place, man. The history at this place is incredible. I would encourage anyone to go out and look at the history of how many big time games were played here. Like I said, whether it was the Eagles in college football, this was a lot. This was a not only Penn, I feel like a slew of big time games were played here historically. Just a ton of games right here. Look at this stadium. I'll put this right there with any stadium the FBS has to offer, man. Like, I don't even know why the Eagles play at the Link when you could just play at this Temple. What are you doing? They'll probably rent this to you. I know it's on Saturday, so maybe you got to work that out. But like, this is just, look at the skyline. It's to me, this is just perfection. Once again, I think you can argue it against Harvard. I think you could argue it against, the Cotton Bowl or the Rose Bowl or whatever. I think this stadium is incredible, and the track, I don't like them getting rid of the track. I want it there. I want it there because it's been there this fucking long. Keep it there. Your thoughts about your travels to Franklin Field, Penn Stadium?
Yeah, it's we can echo the sentiments of Harvard Stadium, but there's differences. And so, first of all, built in 1895, like you said, oldest D1 stadium.
1895. You said 1995.
Where I said 1995.
Yeah.
1895, obviously. Oldest D1 stadium. It's the first stadium to have a scoreboard. It's the second stadium to have an upper deck. The first one was the Shoe at Ohio State. Philadelphia Eagles played there from 1958 to 1970. It is the site of the only Vince Lombardi playoff loss as the coach of the Green Bay Packers, which was the 1960 NFL championship. It was built in 1895, and they basically completely rebuilt it in 1922. They added the second story in 1925. Army Navy has played there 18 times, the most that they've played anywhere else. It's located in downtown Philadelphia. You can see the skyline there. Every shot that you're taking is a top of a skyscraper, a building, and that's how modern cities are. You see the old blended in with the new. In a lot of places, they push to get rid of that old. And when you make stadiums national historical monuments, or you really dig your feet in, you get to keep it, and you get to have this in the middle there. And you mentioned the track. They've had the Penn relays there since 1895. It's been the longest running and the oldest track championship that we have in college sports. And so you're not just going to give that up. I went to one game there in 2021. It was on my birthday. It was October 1st. That's my birthday. And it was the best birthday present I could give myself. And at the time, they were renovating the roadside, which on this photo is the right, and they weren't allowing anybody. But I had a credential, and the security was too lazy to hike up to the second story. So there I am in the second story all by myself. And, if you fast forward to one of the press box seats, I sent you one. I don't know if you have the interior of the press box, but it is original. They have the old wires for landline phones. and it looks like a workshop, like a desk that you would do. And it's still the original press box that they have. There it is right there on the right. Like check your priorities for accommodations at the door, because you're not going to get it here. And that's what we want to preserve, that as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you want to talk about also, like we just said for Harvard, the amount of big time, just the history of the game. You can't tell the story of the history of the game without these stadiums. Like, they've played such a role. It doesn't matter. You know, Jim Brown has scored a touchdown in this stadium. You know, like, you can go one by one on some of the great players that have played in this stadium. And it's just, you don't delete that. Look at this fucking stadium, dude. It's
the Palace.
Yeah. This deserves big time games. It deserves it because it's already gotten them, but it deserves a renaissance of that, in my opinion.
And it has the capacity. So Harvard Stadium is only 25,000. Franklin Field is 53,000. So earlier this year, I did like a suggestion tweet, and Pittsburgh Steelers is playing at the Eagles this year. Play it here. It would be an incredible thing. And, the parking and the concessions and the bathroom. Well, fuck you for a day. Okay. We want to play here once. It's not a big deal. And I will tell you
instead, the NFL will play in like Rio de Janeiro or some shit, Sao Paulo.
Or the stadium's flooding or something in another country. Yeah. So there's two really famous moments here. One is, the story of Santa Claus being booed in Philadelphia when he's on the field. That happened here in 1968. And, I was doing this research for this stadium, and a few days ago, I sent you a link to a YouTube game. It was 1970 Monday night, and it was the Giants at the Eagles. And 1970 is the only year that Keith Jackson did play-by-play, and then they got Frank Gifford, downgrade. Then in 1970, it was the first year of Monday night, and it was the last year of the Eagles playing at Franklin Field before they moved to Veterans Stadium. But that game is famous, and I got to go back and listen to the broadcast. It's the game where they pulled Howard Cosell off the air because he was drunk. And in 1970, he wasn't on the broadcast that much because it was mostly Keith Jackson and a little bit of Don Meredith. But he was in the background, and they said on the broadcast that he fell ill. And I was like, oh, he's ill. But he was really drunk on there. And so that happened at a game 1970 at Franklin Field.
Just so much history there. I was looking right now, and I know Dick Butkus had a great game there. Look, that's what I'm saying, is that, like, you could just don't fuck this up, people. You know what I mean? Like this.
And elevate.
Yeah.
Let's bring some events.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at this. Look at this. This is better than every single NFL stadium. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to bag the NFL, but it is. It's better than every single NFL stadium. I'll argue with anyone this. This looks incredible.
It has. You said this a couple episodes. You said it has personality. And it wasn't about this one, but it was about the reasons that we like older stadiums or unique stadiums. It's not because we're hating new stadiums. It's because you look at that photo and instantly it's Franklin Field. You could, if you took the logos off the end zones in an NFL stadium and did an aerial view, you might not be able to answer them. And let's add to that where it is Heinz Field and then it's a Creesier Stadium, or it's M&T Bank and then it says like this has been Franklin. I mean, Benjamin Franklin. The damn university is named after Benjamin Franklin. So it has personality, and we like personality.
One of the things that I think, and I'm going off subject here a tiny bit, like one of the things I thought baseball did great was it leaned into that history. They started building recent stadiums that looked like stadiums from the 1920s or something. Until the NFL does that, because at the end of that, there's no personality to their stadiums. And even in college, I don't understand why the college chases those stadiums. I don't understand why there's Clemson and Georgia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I have zero interest in. I mean, yes, I would theoretically watch the game because it's college football, but like, you chose the worst possible fucking location, in my opinion. This is personality. This is soul. There's substance here. Things have happened here. You know what I mean? And you shouldn't run from that. You shouldn't just say, oh, the newer thing is better. No, this is better.
I mentioned to you off air that I put a tweet out a few days ago, and it was a photo of Pitt Stadium, and it went down in 1999, and I had a former player for Pitt, and the tweet he replied, and it was like cry face, and it was like, man, I would do anything for that. And you think about it, okay, Pitt Stadium closed in 1999. We're in 2024. That's 25 years ago. There's people who are on the Pitt football team right now that probably didn't even know that Pitt had their own stadium, So these are the kind of things where when you're trying to talk about like leaning in and getting back into this stuff, we're not just beating a dead horse. People that never heard or didn't know Pitt Stadium existed, when they see the photo, they go, holy shit, I wish that we could play there. So this is not like you have to be a certain age. You have to appreciate this. Like you look at this photo of Pitt, Franklin Field, and you could have young 15-year-old sophomores playing high school football, and they'd be like, I want to play there.
Dude, I had a friend recently go to Fenway for a baseball game. He happened to be in Boston, not even a baseball fan. And he's in Boston. So he says, I might as well check it out. He texted me this, and he's telling me like, he goes, this is changing my whole opinion of baseball. This is awesome. Like I can picture Babe Ruth playing here. And that's why, like when people idolize Wrigley or Fenway, it speaks the same reasons why we should be idolizing Franklin Field or the Yale Bowl or Harvard Stadium or the Rose Bowl. And I don't understand how in the MLB or not, like it's accepted nationally that Wrigley and Fenway or Yankee Stadium should be, that's the mecca of baseball. How can it be accepted there, but not talked about barely in this world we live in with college football? It's not talked about enough. Franklin Field should be talked about all the time. They should play big time college football games there. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I don't understand how we can praise in one sport these gems of stadiums, and then in another sport we just completely ignore it.
To me, there's only one explanation. Baseball is played between April and early October, and football is played September to late December, early January. And we got Coach Madden in the intro saying those guys in the press boxes and the suites, they don't count. Enough football fans voice their displeasure for watching football in the elements, and that's enough to drive big-time games away from classic venues that are outdoor, particularly in the Northeast. And that's really sad.
It is. It really is. Look at this thing. Big-time games should be played there. That's an amazing stadium. And Penn, look, no disrespect, if you're a Penn football fan, big-time games are played there, all right? But I'm talking about in December. Your season ends even in late November. There's nothing going on at Franklin Field. Let's go. Let's get it going. Princeton next. Princeton Stadium. Princeton, only 27 years old. What the hell happened here? Seats 27,000 or 21. I don't know. I have a hard time when this font making out if that's a 7 or a 1. Yeah. Princeton, New Jersey. What am I looking at here? What's going on here?
So, I do drop-in visits, and I'm excited, and I'm driving, and I get to Princeton, and there's a damn bubble in it because it was the off season, or they do practice there. And so in 2017, somebody donated $3.5 million. So when it gets really cold, they can practice indoors, and I guess they don't have enough space on campus. So they just, park the Goodyear blimp in the middle of the field and they play inside of it.
Hilarious.
I will tell you though, it was so damn windy outside of that place. Like I get it, but when I showed up, this is a time like I'd never been to Princeton Stadium, and you get this like little kid anticipation when you're driving or look at your GPS. I'm only 14 miles from Princeton Stadium, and you walk in, you're like, what the hell is this? It's like it's like the Ghostbuster. What was that big white, the ghost
State
or whatever,
Puff,
like what
State Puff marshmallow.
Yeah. So I had to make up for it and go for a game because this was my only experience at Princeton, and it didn't serve feed the soul, let's say.
Yeah, it's still a nice stadium though. Overall, it's still nice, man. I know it's rather new, the newest of the Ivies, but it's still a nice stadium when I was looking at this. Tell me about your travels there for that.
Yeah, so I went to a game a couple of years ago. It was a Friday night game, and They had a stadium that was called Palmer Stadium, and it was built in 1914. And in 1996, they made a decision rather than rehab and renovate and reconstruct. They just knocked it down, and so they built Princeton Stadium on the same spot. There's a big concrete placard for Palmer Stadium. They tried to do there it is right there. That's at the one of the end zones of the stadium. They tried to make the exterior shell resemble Palmer Stadium. It's not the same, I will tell you that when we had the FCS Best FCS Invitational Tournament and people saw the exterior, they thought it was a nice blend of the old elements with the modern amenities. But in the same way that we're talking about, the history of Harvard Stadium and Penn Stadium and Cornell Stadium, you're not going to get that here. But that being said, if you said this was not an Ivy League stadium and you put it out there amongst some of the better stadiums in the FCS, I believe you would come away very impressed with the stadium. It's just a contrast to what the rest of the Ivy League has to offer.
Yeah. I agree. It's still nice. It's just the comparison that we're doing with every other stadium's 110 years old. Yeah.
And they did, and like I said, they built Palmer Field in 1914. And one thing that's interesting, you can't really see it in this view. I don't know if you had that overhead photo, but what they did was the Palmer Stadium used to have a track. This is the one exactly what I'm looking for. So Palmer Stadium had a track. When they reconstructed and built a new stadium, they put the bleachers closer, and then they used the back side of the south bleachers to be the bleachers for the track. So it was a little bit of ingenuity to preserve the footprint of an old stadium, relocate the track so it's not in the football stadium, use the bleachers in a multi-purpose way, and then make the new stadium with the seats closer to the field. So I like that. I like that aspect. And this was the photo when people looked at it, they were like, this is a really good looking stadium. And I agree with them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'd like to get there for a game.
Can we, I got one more point about that. Yeah. Can I go back real quick? So
Sure.
One thing that you'll like this. So in 2000, when they built the stadium, they called it Princeton University Stadium, but they put a $25 million bounty out there for an alumnus to donate it was a leadership donation where you could have the stadium named after you. And they would not accept a corporate donation. Okay. $25 million, but it can't come from a company. So no one did it. They did name the field as Powers Field at Princeton Stadium. There's a Wall Street investor guy named William Powers. He dropped $10 million. He helped him with the new field turf and all that. So they did it. But we have a lot. I mean, the LA Coliseum is like American Airlines field at whatever. So we don't care about the field. But I thought that was pretty cool in the era of everybody's taking money. This prestigious Ivy League university said, look, we'll name it after somebody, but it has to be an alumnus, and they got to drop $25 million. So I don't know if it's a standing offer, but we don't have, QF5 corporate credit union stadium in Princeton. We got Princeton Stadium, which is a classic name that we definitely could live with.
Hell yeah. Great story. I like adding that to it. We got the Yale Bowl, which is good God, man. This is you could argue with Franklin and with Harvard Stadium to me, just play Super Bowls, national championships, FCS, FBS, don't matter. New Haven, Connecticut, seats 61,500. This was once the home to the New York Giants, I remember. For a couple seasons it was, at least, I think.
73 and 74.
I mean, look at this fucking stadium. This is, what are we doing now? What? There's no lights. That's the knock, right? But look at the stadium, man. This is just incredible. Charles Addison Ferry, you, sir, our civil engineer of the month for us, designer of the Yale Bowl. My respects given to you. Look at this place, man. And yeah, tell me about your travels here, because this place is incredible.
So it's the only Ivy League stadium I haven't been to for a game. It bothers the shit out of me. You've
been to it, but just not to a game. Yeah.
So all those photos that you showed, the exterior with the Bulldog statue, that one, and this one. So it was all if you go back to an exterior photo, so first of all, it's a bowl-shaped stadium, and it's just a sunken bowl, but you could see, so where the bleachers go up, and then you see that grassy mound go down, there are little tunnels that are the entrances. That's all there are. And so when I visited, this is a National Historic Landmark, they're not just letting people go in there. And so they were all locked up. And if you go back to the very first photo, the exterior with the Bulldog statue, that one right there was a fence open. And beyond that fence right there, that's the press box. And I just, there was an open door. It led to a little locker room. I went up a staircase and boom, I'm at the 50-yard line. So I didn't do my normal lap and do the whole thing, but I did get a centered photo there. But even this one right here, but even in the short time that I was there, you're in the midst of history. The bleachers are still wooden. And this stadium spawned, the LA Coliseum, it spawned the Rose Bowl, it spawned Michigan Stadium. Fielding Yost was at Yale. He went to Michigan Stadium. He wanted to duplicate this. He wanted Michigan Stadium to be the Yale Bowl, but 150 to 200,000 seats. He had him settle on 72,000. Today it's 109, so it was big, but he wanted it to be gigantic. But, if you look right here below the 50-yard line in white outline, it says 149. And that was in 2022, where it's the 149th year of Yale football. Last year was 150. So not only are we talking about a historic stadium that spawned so many clones and influenced so much in college football, but you're talking about a school that has fielded football for 150 years.
Yeah. Dude, I got to get there. This thing looks incredible. Just absolutely incredible. Look at that.
And it's simple. It's simple. So we look at, the Harvard Stadium has got influence from Greek, BC stadiums, and Franklin Field. It looks kind of like a castle. This is just a very simple principle. And, it has great sight lines. You can see that when you look at that photo, you can see the Rose Bowl. Am I correct?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And so I had I think it was either the recruiting director or player personnel guy from Yale send me a message in the off season, like, hey, we want you to come there. And I want to go, but I also had people tell me that you should really go for the Harvard Yale game. And so that game is next year. It's usually the weekend before Thanksgiving. And I think I'm going to hold out and wait for a sold out Yale Bowl photo in a year and a half, which is tough because I want to do it now. But I think that if you're going to pull the trigger, you're going to go to daytime football, you want to get that shot right there.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And I should mention also that I like the hungrier dog gets the bone. Love that side. Where was this at?
That's so, I'm going in places I wasn't invited, but it was in the indoor of the press box, and I think the locker rooms down there. But that's Handsome Dan 1, which is the first mascot that they ever had, and I think it says something like 1889. So it's a badass saying perfect. Right there. We like that. Yeah, exactly.
I do love that. And folks, that is the Ivy League. There's not that many teams in the Ivy, but guess what? They pack a fucking punch. Ryan Hasty in the chat saying Ivy stadiums are the best of any conference. He's so glad he's tuned in. Thank you, Ryan. And yeah, we gotta spread the word on this, because I feel like it's underappreciated. And it shouldn't be like this. These stadiums are all amazing. The history is amazing. And let's get to ranking these things. I will say In no particular order here. Michael Barker, aka College Football Campus Tour, says Harvard Stadium, Franklin Field, Yale Bowl, Princeton Stadium, Sholkoff Field. Those are his 5. It's a hard exercise to do, but I feel pretty much intact for the most part with that. My top 5 were Franklin. Now I had a really hard time with Franklin and Harvard because as much as I love Harvard with the columns and everything, I also have a real soft spot for Franklin Field there. The Yale Bowl is incredible too. The only thing I threw is I threw fucking Dartmouth in there at number 5. All of these are great. There's not one that failed the mission in my opinion. 0 fails. Ivy League football. You kick ass. All right. Are you surprised at my top 5?
No, because the only difference we have is I have Princeton, and Princeton's built in 1996, and Memorial Stadium is over 100 years old. So I'm not surprised by that. But we're the same as the other 4. It's crazy that you could actually say the Yale Bowl could be number 3.
I know,
but look at the guys ahead of him, and so you have Franklin. My list is not necessarily number 1 through, but it might be. As I mentioned, Washington Grizzly, Mississippi Veterans, and Harvard Stadium has got to be my top 3. And Franklin Field, I would go there all the time if I could. And the Yale Bowl, I really want to see a game there. Hopefully the game next year, solidify that. Cornell, Ithaca is beautiful. It's a very underrated original stadium with the crescent and those like movie theater outdoor seating. And, Princeton, I think, did a great job with their new stadium. But I'm not surprised. We got 4 out of 5. So, we both think we're smart. So we made a good list.
Yeah. I mean, dude, doing this exercise with the Ivy, you just sit there and say, it's incredible, man. College football is incredible. We need to not forget about these folks. So make sure you need not forget about us either. Subscribe. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN, wherever podcasts can be found, iTunes, Spotify. If you can hop over and give us a 5-star review on iTunes too, we'd certainly appreciate that. The bosses, the sponsors, they always like seeing that. So take 2 minutes out of your day. We like to think we took a couple hours out of our day to educate you on how great these stadiums are. So maybe next time you're in Philadelphia, you check out Franklin Field. The next time you're in Boston, you check out Harvard Stadium, right? Or the Yale Bowl, wherever. These places need more appreciation, in my opinion. People, please give Michael a follow on Twitter. I can't emphasize that enough. At CFB Campus Tour. I think that's how I became friends with Michael. Just was like, who the hell's running this awesome Twitter page? So get on over there at CFB Campus Tour. I'm on Twitter at @TheColbyD. The College Football Experience is on Twitter, or I'm sorry. I'm doing 134 previews. So I also host the College Football Experience. Check out that. We talk obviously about the stadiums too and how great they are. FCS College Football Experience as well. But please subscribe to the Stadium Heads podcast, folks. There's Stadium Heads gear in the store. You can get a hat, shirt, spread. Look at that. He's got the shirt on right there. Spread the word, because we're just getting started. All right. I still feel like we're in our first, episodes. Michael's travel schedule, it's about to ramp up. Obviously, in a few weeks here, we're going to document all of that. And shout out to Cannabis Capper, who says he learned a lot tonight. All right, I feel like, who knew? See, Mama, I told you I was going to teach people shit. So there you go. Look, folks, appreciate you tuning in. We're excited to come back next week and talk more about stadiums and why college football is the greatest thing to hit planet Earth. But do yourself a favor. All right. Go out to some of these stadiums, support Ivy League football, support college football. I sit in a studio in Eagle Rock, California, and I watch 30 games. I feel like a Saturday because I got a 9 TV setup, but there's nothing like the real game experience. As much as I would encourage you to watch as much college football as you can, because I think college football is amazing. Getting out to a game, we talked about some of these Ivies. They packed 30,000 back, 100 years ago. Let's bring it back. Let's go. Get yourself out to a game. Folks, appreciate you tuning in. I see, 900 people in here. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'm looking forward to the future episodes we do on this. Till next time, this is the Stadium Heads Ivy League edition. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
No cream, no sugar, mocha only. Choke the microphone the way he low can choke a phony, won't he? Told him play a station like a broken Sony. Tenderoni phone, she only come and stroke the pony. That good loving deserves her Uncle Anatoni. Rats in the hood bugging, they want more raw baloney. Chachi need to watch his bony, skinny Joni. Yelling fit and fatten her up with minestrone. Been grown, chrome Molly skin tone. While he rock the end zone, tap your toe or chin bone. The choice is yours alone. He came for the throne and to get the game zone. Doom man known after dawn for sure true. And he won't show his face or sponsor your group. He sneak up and throw you for a loop. She picked up, speak up if you want some more soup.
New suits again, who do's cruise again, who's too smooth, who's slews want stools with them. No surprise, no new news to him. Here's a light bulb, now how many of you screw this in? I do better when it's less team effort. With an old blue sweater, I'm a less clean dresser. Full circle, back to the drawing board. Mike by the mirror, I'm the best I ever saw record. Smoke and doom, get it sewn like an open wound. Two scientists up in the lab will make it go kaboom. They said don't mix those two properties together, probably end up with some empty eye sockets or whatever. I'm only here to hunt pleasure like some treasure. Never from a whack pack of bitches like the Heathers. After this, you better owe them for some loot. You freaks, what the fuck would make me want some more soup?